All right, everybody. So some big news happened today, and I genuinely can't say it surprised me. So I don't know if you guys have been watching a lot of my foreign policy content, but I have been getting into more like worldly affairs type politics stuff lately. And one of the topics that's involved is Ukraine and discussing the war between Ukraine and Russia. Though I should more so frame it as the immoral and illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia in an attempt to annex their land. Recently, I had someone who is much more of an expert than I on stream to talk about this in much more detail. The person in question is Dylan Burns. You may know him as, I don't know if he currently holds this record because the way time works, but for a while he was known as the youngest foreign policy advisor in America, and he was a foreign policy advisor for the Gravel campaign. And he got really big on Twitch, and he does debates and stuff. But more recently, he's spent a lot of time in Ukraine volunteering with humanitarian groups to help save anything, just basically whether it be just doing journalism to document war crimes being committed by Russia, helping animals that have been saved in, for example, a town that was flooded by a nearby dam that was blown up. Things like this. Dylan's been doing some awesome stuff, and I had him on stream recently to discuss this because he's much more of an expert than I. And he basically explained the issue with the Wagner coup that happened recently. You see, Russia has a private military group. Well, I wouldn't say it's actually not, it's not really a private military group in the way that you imagine an American, contracted PMC. It is, in fact, beholden to the Russian government, and they are answering to Putin. However, they're not part of the Russian military in the same way. And the way that they are hired, for the most part, for lack of a better term, is really interesting. So the Wagner Group are, for the most part, ex-prisoners. See, Russia has, like, a very violent and very, like, up prison culture, and some of the meanest and baddest guys from these Russian prisons are the ones that Putin went to bring into the Wagner Group, because he saw these violent criminals as like the perfect people to send off to invade a foreign country. Like, why not? They're perfect for that, right? Perfect decision from his perspective. Now, the Wagner Group is brutal and awful even by Russian soldier standards. To give you an idea, something they've become quite known for is deserters and people they consider to be traitors. They will kill with sledgehammers. Their favorite go-to execution method is beating people to death with sledgehammers. That's what they like to do. And their leader is a guy named Yevgeny Prigozhin. It's a really difficult to spell and pronounce Russian name, but I think I got it perfect there. And this guy is a real piece of work. Now, for a while, he was actually being praised by Putin, the Russian media, and even Putin's, like, oligarchical administration, quote-unquote, for lack of a better term, as, this hero who was marching into Ukraine and liberating it from the from Zelensky and whatnot. But as the coup happened, Prigozhin basically just betrayed the entire propaganda wave for Putin. He basically said, yeah, no, this entire invasion's a sham, Putin's lying to you, and basically was just, proclaiming to Russia that all of the propaganda they'd been getting fed about the invasion was bullshit. Which did not make Putin, one, look very good, and two, look very strong. Both very bad things for Putin. He needs to look strong, and he needs to look good. Those are, like, one of those two things needs to be true at all times. So, yeah, Putin's in a pretty tough position right now. Or was in a pretty tough position. And when I talked to Dylan, I brought up the idea that, like, so Prigozhin's, like, a dead man walking, right? Like Putin's gonna kill him. And Dylan was like, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Well, I think he just didn't want to make any speculative claims, but I mean, this is not very out of this is not very what's happened is not very out of character for Putin. So Yevgeny Prigozhin, I apologize. His jet, his plane, just today was shot down over Russian soil and crashed and just fell and crashed in a fiery, smoldering explosion of wreckage. He is pretty much confirmed dead at this point. My understanding is that he'd actually been on the run in a different country, or not on the run necessarily, but sort of seeking asylum, for lack of a better term, in a different country, right? In order to stay away from Putin for a while. But Putin kind of fake played nice with him, and now he's dead. He was in Africa like a week ago. Yeah, he'd kind of exiled himself. Yeah, thank you, Apillo. He was hiding out in Belarus, exactly. Oh yeah, for the record, by the way, the Wagner Group has like their hands all over the fucking world. They're in Africa primarily, quite significantly. They have a lot of I believe what Dylan explained to me was that let's say there are some like hostile to Russia or not Russia forces that control like a diamond or an emerald mine or something in Africa. If the Wagner Group goes in and takes it, then they as an institution get like a 30% split of the profits from that mine, or say if it's like an oil field or just some shit like that. It's mostly in Africa, yeah. So they are very much, they have a monetary incentive to engage in as much conquering in the name of Russia, mostly in Africa, as possible. It's pretty fucked up. It's a more recent thing that they are doing their horrible shit in Ukraine. So yeah, they've gotten a lot more in the attention of the world since the invasion, you know? Yay, I am drowning. Anyway, I've got a news video here from CNN that actually goes into the details about this whole plane crash and everything. I actually don't know anything about it. I've neglected looking into it because I don't want to spoil myself on any of the info before giving my thoughts on it live on stream. So let's just start the video and find out what the hell happened.
Putin's biggest enemy appears to have been eliminated. Yevgeny Prigozhin, who led...
Who could have guessed this? Who could have ever seen something like this coming?
The attempted coup back in June is now dead after the jet that he was flying in crashed, according to a group linked to the Wagner Group. This is video of Prigozhin's plane. You see it here falling out of the sky minus one of its wings.
Damn.
A large trail of smoke billowing behind it. There were 9 other people on board that jet, which was at a cruise altitude of 28,000 feet before it disappeared from radar. Video from the ground showing the jet's debris burning. So far, no word on what caused the plane, which was traveling from Moscow to St. Petersburg, to go down. But U.S. intelligence is now most likely trying to determine if there was an explosion inside of the plane or if there was a flash on the ground, which could suggest that it was hit by a missile. So far, Putin is not commenting on the crash. We have a lot to get to tonight. I want to start with Fred Pleitgen.
So what do you think Putin's denial that he did this is going to be like? Because he's not going to outright state that he did this and this is what happens to those who dissent against him. He's going to pretend like this is a freak accident. You know, every political, opponent of Putin just happens to die from freak accidents. It just keeps happening. He's just not going to say anything. He probably doesn't have to, you know? Like, the media is not free there. It's very much not free. So, like, he just won't be questioned on it if he doesn't want to be questioned on it. He'll just not allow himself to be in an environment where he's speaking to press that can ask him those questions. He could just straight up not even bother lying and just not say anything at all. That would be that would be Giga Chad of him, frankly. That would be quite Giga Chad of Putin to do, frankly. And I only say that because, you know, let's be real, Prigozhin definitely deserved to die.
Fred, what more are you learning about the crash that is said to have killed this leader of the Wagner Group?
Hi there, Brianna. Well, the Russians are saying that the investigators that are on the scene there are actually still working and trying to gather evidence. They say that they're looking at multiple scenarios as to what might have happened to the plane, including mechanical error, but of course also, as they put it, tampering with the aircraft as well. And of course, it's no secret that Yevgeny Prigozhin more than fell out of favor with Vladimir Putin. In fact, Vladimir
tampering.
Putin
I thought they would have shot it down.
The actions of Prigozhin treasonous. Now, of course, right now it's unclear what exactly happened to the plane, who was behind it, but there are very few who believe that it could have been an accident. Here's what we're learning.
Of course it wasn't
Probably
an accident.
The last moments of
Who
Wagner
thinks it
boss
was an
Yevgeny
accident?
Prigozhin. This jet, an Embraer Legacy 600 seen falling from the sky, a wing appearing to be missing. Russian authorities confirming Prigozhin was on board the aircraft. CNN is unable to confirm the authenticity of this video, but RIA Novosti claimed it was the moment that an Embraer jet fell from the sky in the Tver region north of Moscow. Flight data shows the plane traveling from Moscow on a heading to St. Petersburg before it suddenly stops transmitting. Russian media say 10 people were on board, all of them believed dead, and that Prigozhin's name was also on the passenger manifest. The Wagner mercenary group fought bitterly.
Dude, how crazy of a development would it be if it turned out he wasn't on the plane? Like, what if it turned out he just had a bad feeling about getting on that plane and he didn't get on board? And he found out that like, what happened, and now he's, like, in hiding, and he's allowing Putin to think he's dead. And then eventually we find out that he's not dead. How crazy would that be, dude? Yeah, it was a body double. That'd be wild.
In Ukraine, notably in Bakhmut, gaining some territory, but also incurring heavy losses. Prigozhin ripping into Russia's defense minister and his top general, accusing them of withholding ammo, leading to further deaths of his fighters.
You think you were the masters of this life? You think you can dispose of other lives? You think because you have warehouses full of ammunition that you have that right?
In late June, Prigozhin went a step further, launching a rebellion he said aimed to unseat
This is when they were
the
marching
leadership
tanks
of the
to
defense
Moscow.
minister. Prigozhin finally relented,
Marching and rolling
Wagner's
tanks to
troops
Moscow.
were ordered to Belarus, but days later, Putin took aim at Prigozhin himself.
We will protect our people and our statehood from any threats, including treason from the inside. What we're facing now is treason. Unreasonable ambitions and personal interests led to treachery, state treason, and betrayal of our people.
World reaction to the latest news has been swift and blunt.
There's not much that happens when Russia and Putin.
Dude, I fucking love Biden. Oh, that's perfect. That's Biden today. That's Biden on the day of the GOP debate, dressed in all blue, wearing sunglasses and a blue baseball cap, drinking a milkshake, probably an ice cream milkshake, because we know how much he loves his ice cream. I love him. Hashtag my president.
No comment from the Russian president tonight. He held a moment of silence, but for Soviet soldiers killed in World War II in Kursk, as the debris of the plane carrying what was one of his most important fighters burns in a field north of Russia's capital.
And that continues to be the case, Brianna. Absolutely nothing official from Vladimir Putin tonight. But I think one of the important things that we need to point out is that while Yevgeny Prigozhin was most probably killed on that plane, so was pretty much the entire senior leadership of the Wagner private military company. It's pretty much a complete decapitation of that organization, including their top military commander, Dmitry Utkin, who actually came up with the name Wagner and who's played a huge role for that organization in Syria, in Africa, and in Ukraine as well.
Oh yeah, they're big in Syria too.
Russia say if that company survives, it will be a completely different organization, Brianna.
Yeah, such a good point. Fred Pleitgen, thank you for that report. Out front now, Christo Grozev, lead Russia investigator at Bellingcat.
Isn't it crazy how, like, the Russian apologists have had to go from there's not going to be, you know, we can use Hassan as a good example of the Russia apologists. I love how triggered you guys get. Yeah, like, they start out by saying there's not going to be an invasion. Russia's not going to invade. You liberals are just trying to warmonger and trying to raise panic and make people, get drama clicks, yada, yada, yada. You're trying to get panic clicks. There's not going to be invasion. It's just, I believe, the most popular talking point from Russian media outlets, which was, of course, peddled by Hassan, was the claim that they were just trainings. They were just doing, like, military trainings on the border. All the evidence suggested that was not the case. They were literally shipping out blood bags and medical tents, like the blood bags that would expire in, like, weeks out there as well. So it's like, it was very clear they were preparing for actual combat. But Russian sympathizers and not sympathizers, Russian propagandists and shills have been pushing these talking points for quite a while. The idea that, like, so it starts off and it's like, oh yeah, it's just, yeah, they're not going to invade. Yeah, no, they're totally not going to invade. Come on, no, like, Russia's, come on, no. Russia's not going to invade Ukraine. And then they did. And it was like, okay, they're invading, all right? But it's not actually an invasion. It's actually more like a liberation, really. I mean, really, think about it. It's more like a liberation. The Ukrainian people actually want this, believe it or not. And then it moves on to, okay, well, the Ukrainian people don't necessarily want this, but it's actually because they're Nazis. Russia is going in and denazifying Ukraine. And then they've held on to that for a while, but honestly, that narrative has kind of gone away as the right has gotten more pro-Nazi openly. And then we go down. We go down the list even further. It gets even fucking crazier. And then it becomes, okay, well, Russia's actually winning. And it's like, well, I mean, not really if you look at the way things are going. I mean, by the looks of things, it really seems like Russia is failing when you consider Ukraine is, considerably not as powerful of a country, you would assume, but it's doing an absurdly good job of holding its own against an invasion. And it's very clear that Russia is not winning. Like, their go-to response from this point, like, for a while, has been, Russia is winning. But they're not. The propaganda has been Russia is winning. Oh, look, we're rolling out cyber armor. Oh my God, Russia has cyber armor. Oh my God, the they-them American military is done. When the super soldiers with the Russian cyber armor come out, it's like modified paintball gear. and like, Russia has still failed to take any, like, I mean, they've taken ground for sure. Like, let's not pretend like they haven't, achieved anything, and they haven't done serious damage to Ukraine. But, like, I think a lot of people assumed that Russia would have, like, won by now. And not only have they not won by now, but they're actually doing quite poorly in the grand scheme of the war. So, yeah. I don't know. I just think it's funny. Like, I'm curious to see how continuously desperate Russian propaganda outlets and talking points have to get in order to make Russia look good. Because that is the thing that always has to happen. Russia always has to be made to look good, no matter what. Can't allow for it not to.
Productions, who is also on Russia's wanted list, and Andrei Soldatov, a Russian investigative journalist whose site has been blocked in Russia. Christo, to you first. I know that you have been talking to all of your sources. What do you think happened here?
Well, there's no doubt among any of the Wagnerites or ex-Wagnerites whom I'm talking to that this was an assassination, this was a decapitation of the whole Wagner.
Yeah, V-Raptor, exactly. There were literally people who were saying that Zelensky staying in Ukraine is false hope and that the country would fall in days and he would be dead and executed. And yet here he is, still there and still, like, standing by his nation. Like, yeah. Like, people did not expect Ukraine to hold out this long. And not only, they're not just holding out, they are thriving with it. Well, not thriving, but, like, they are I would argue, winning. If there is a winning in a war like this, I would argue they are on the winning side so far. At least by the looks of things. I've seen real Prismarine in real life chat, rock hounding, And I really like how this resource pack actually makes the prismarine the same color as the real prismarine I've seen IRL. It's a very bright, beautiful blue like this.
Their leadership, as Fred said, nobody doubts that, and even the Telegram channels that were always very well informed and close to the management of Wagner are calling it an assassination. What they're calling it as well is an act of treason. So now we see a reversal of accusations where Putin was calling what Prigozhin did 2 months ago, exactly to the day, 2 months ago, treason. Now the ex-Wagnerites or the Wagnerites are calling what Putin did to Prigozhin treason. So we're poised to see some interesting developments in Russia in the next few days.
Andrei, do you have any doubt that Putin was behind this?
That was quite interesting.
None
that
whatsoever,
all the people I spoke
in
with
my
today,
opinion.
Immediately assumed that it was Putin who was behind this attack, not say some rogue elements within the military or the army independently took action against Prigozhin. And for me, it is a sign that Putin was quite successful at reestablishing political control and sending this message to the military, specifically to the military, that there is no space, no room for any independent action.
Christo, it was just a couple weeks ago that you were predicting that Prigozhin would either be dead or that there would be a second coup by the end of the year. What do you think about the timing here if Putin was behind this?
Well, I mean, again, on the assumption that Putin was behind it, and there seems to be no force in Russia that could have done this
other than him, yeah,
authorization and purview, then the only question is,
and the
why did it
motive.
happen
The motive
so
is there.
fast? I mean, the reason why we on this program discussed a couple of weeks ago that Putin must eliminate, neutralize Prigozhin once he called him a traitor, because otherwise he will
he'd look
lose
weak.
the ability to govern by ruthlessness. The only problem with the timing is that it happened a bit too fast. It happened before Putin was able to essentially destroy the influence of Prigozhin in Africa, destroy the influence of Prigozhin on the remaining Wagner troops. And I think that this has to do exactly with Africa. I mean, in the last week, we saw a lot of escalation of the fight between the Ministry of Defense and Putin and the Kremlin on one hand, and Prigozhin on the other hand, on who will retain control over some of the most lucrative markets in Africa, over Mali, over Central African Republic. In fact, Prigozhin was in Africa the last 2 days, and he was on the way back from Africa trying to retain control over Mali and not to yield control to the Ministry of Defense. And I think it is this escalation of the interest in Africa that precipitated the action against Prigozhin.
Andrei, many people were surprised that Putin didn't take action against Prigozhin after he led that march towards Moscow exactly 2 months ago to the day here. It, of course, failed. He was even seen in public in St. Petersburg attending the very same summit as Putin 2 weeks ago. I mean, if Putin is behind this, why wait 2 months?
Yeah, opportunity, because he was out of the country.
It is a sign that Putin is still a cold-blooded and a very calculating player who took his time to assess the situation, to assess what to do with Prigozhin's resources in the country and outside the country, to try to figure out what to do with Prigozhin's people in Africa and in the Middle East. And also, he needed to understand
I love this
what
guy's
to do
accent.
with the military. And I think it's not a surprise and not a coincidence that this week we also got news about Surovikin. Finally, we got some clearance about
Yeah, Putin was probably just waiting for the best opportunity. Like, I don't think it was like, it has to happen now for any, like, particular reason. And I don't think he couldn't have done it sooner. I think it was just probably most convenient to do it now. Like, you know? I don't know if it really matters, like, why he chose to do it now. I think it's just very clear that he's had a ticking kind of timer on his reputation for a while now, where people are just day by day thinking of him as weak. Because he's called this guy a traitor. He's very explicitly stated that this guy's an enemy of the people, and he hadn't done anything about him. And he had to do something about him. He's got to keep up the strongman, fasci aesthetic. Otherwise, his way of ruling doesn't work on his people. They've been trained to respond to that type of behavior from their leader.
clarity. But what actually happened to Surovikin, he was dismissed. He lost his position as a head of our space forces, but still remains in the military.
Yeah, a key general. It had been in the Ukraine war and dismissed as the head of what is the equivalent of the Air Force. And he hadn't been seen since the mutiny in June. And we just found out that he was stood down here really in the last day. Christo, Bellingcat was critical to proving that it was a Russian missile that had taken down MH17, that commercial jetliner in eastern Ukraine in 2014, killing so many people. What should outside investigators be looking for in this case, in Prigozhin's plane, that does not require Russian cooperation?
Yeah, I think we're in a different...
this is also like... this is also like a pretty good way of handling it for the Russian people, too. Like, it's very possible that, like, if Putin tried to pull this off in any other way, it could have ended up, having some level of, like, explosive impact, I guess, on just your average everyday citizen. It just being the leader's plane gets shot down flying in the middle of the countryside, and, this coup group is done. The head's been cut off the snake. Then that's actually a pretty effective way to handle the problem. Funnily enough. Yes, Bouth. After stream today, we binge. And then tomorrow, because I'm not streaming tomorrow, I have tomorrow off, we binge. Back to the video.
Stage now, we have so many leaks within Russia, within Russian security services, within Russian Ministry of Defense, people that are actively or tacitly fighting against one another, that we're going to get the answers pretty soon, I believe. We're not going to have to go through this laborious looking for shreds of shrapnel and shreds of evidence and looking for postings on social media, which is what Bellingcat had to do for months and years in 2014 and 15. I think we're going to see actual reports and witness statements and pictures.
Oh yeah, this will be talked about
happened,
by people involved.
Leaked to social media and to Telegram channels in the next few days, because if
Putin wants everyone to know that he did it, but he doesn't want it to come from his mouth. Although, to be fair, it might actually make Putin look better if he does just outright state, yep, he was a threat to the country, he was a traitor, I eliminated him. That's the kind of leader I am. Like, that would actually probably make him look best. He might just straight up own up to it. Like, if unironically, if I were Putin's, like, content manager right now, I'd be like, bro, just own it. Just Giga Chad and say yes. Yep, that was me. That would be me if I was Putin's manager. He should hire me. I'd be good at that job. No, Bouth, you've betrayed us. Okay, we can do tomorrow then.
Prigozhin did one good thing. If this cold-blooded criminal and war criminal did one good thing, he actually created some sort of pluralism of media in Russia in a very perverse sense. And there's a lot of people who now have taken cue from him and are speaking up. They're not the nicest people, but they're going to leak. And I think we're going to find out what happened to this in the next couple of days.
Everyone involved is just awful. I love that about this entire situation, is that everybody involved is just awful. It's Putin and the war criminals that are also just literal criminals that he hired to go do war crimes in another country. It's all just evil versus evil in this, like, inter-Russian oligarchy drama in this coup. The only good guys are the Ukrainians and us. We're also the good guys. We're actually the best guys. Did that dolphin just bring me the Prismarine? Oh my god, it is. Oh. Yo. Dude, the aquatic update is so cool. Why are 2B2T players so stupid and mad about this? I've got a dolphin bringing me blocks, bro. Yeah, bring me that. Yeah, bump it towards me, buddy. Yeah. Oh, these things are so annoying. Maybe, just to not have to deal with these things, it might be worth... No, it would literally take hours to dry out the entire temple. It's not worth it. It's not time efficient. Wait, is this on 2B2T? Yes. Yes, it is. Look at the chat. Look at the tab menu. Yes, I'm on 2B right now. Pretty based, huh? Pretty cool. Yeah, I think Prigozhin, I think he definitely got what he deserved, morally. But also fuck Putin. But also, like, I'm not going to complain that Putin took this, like, horrific guy out. But at the same time, it's also possible that him living longer would have been ideal for, you know, everybody else, because Prigozhin's continued life and existence within Russia or even outside of it would continue to make Putin look bad and look weak, which is, like, the best way to hurt him, it seems, is to make him look weak. What hack client do I use? Meteor. It's the Meteor client. I would recommend using Meteor client until Future client, if that's what you'd prefer to use, gets fully updated to 1.19 or like a full 1.20 version. It's not the beta. I tried out the Future beta. It's okay, but I actually do think that Meteor client's better, at least right now. And Meteor client's free. But that's just for now. I prefer normal, like, full release Future. I think it's the best hacked client, so that's what I would advise. I'll be all right. You can tank drowning for a hot minute in that armor. Anyway, Rip Bozo.